I want to take you on a journey today into a realm few people ever choose to consciously explore, the untapped wellspring of human potential that lies dormant within each of us, just waiting to be activated and unleashed upon the world. You see, despite whatever level of accomplishment or personal success we've achieved thus far in our lives, whether you're a novice is setting out on your path or a long-tenured veteran with an impressive array of accolades and achievements under your belt, there is always another stratosphere of performance, productivity, and actualization calling to be summoned from the infinite evolutionary reserves within you. The regrettable truth is that for all our modern society celebrates outward markers of status, wealth, and notoriety, only an embarrassingly tiny fraction of people ever come remotely close to maxing out the full amplitude of what they're capable of as human beings. The masses look at the elite winners who rise above the ordinary, the innovators and titans who reshape industries and shake up the status quo, as extraordinarily gifted outliers outside the realm of normal human potential. But that couldn't be further from reality. The staggering truth, my friends, is that the men and women you admire for their jaw-dropping success, creatively revolutionary impact, and meteoric rise to significance were born with the exact same quotient for potential as you. Not more and certainly not any less. You see, there are no special gifts, secret genetic codes, or mystical capacities endowed to certain fortunate individuals that make them better equipped to achieve stratospheric levels of success than the rest of us. There is only one X factor that separates winners from those who endlessly spin their wheels in mediocrity. That difference is an undying commitment to becoming an all-consuming obsession with refusing to accept anything less than the fullest embodiment of their limitless God-given potentiality. This is what propels winners into rarefied air the masses cannot even dream of aspiring towards. Think about this. Does any baby emerge from the womb destined for grandeur or condemned to perpetual struggle? Do we shoot out of the chute imprinted with success codes or failure sequences hardwired into our metaphysical DNA? Of course not. We are each birthed as perfect crystalline vessels of unbounded potential. Little sponges overflowing with the capacity to absorb incredible complexity, miraculous skills, and astonishing capabilities far beyond our comprehension at the starting line. It is only through the infinite series of conscious choices we make after entering this earthly realm, one decision compounding upon the next, that we ultimately determine whether we harness those incredible reserves of human potential into the trajectory of becoming unstoppable world-class winners, or stagnate into complacent mediocrity and dim obscurity. Those who achieve immortality through lasting legacy and significance know there is no happenstance, no accidental windfalls or random outcomes generating their boundless success. There is simply a profound discipline of continuously training their minds to operate like winners long before becoming one in the eyes of the world. My friends, winners at the highest echelon of accomplishment understand that supreme external achievement is only the outward mirror, the reflective byproduct of consciously installing an elite psychological hardwiring and habitual patterning of thought within themselves from the very beginning. You see, the game of transformational human achievement isn't divided between those bestowed talent and those bereft of special capacities, waiting to be uncovered like they're stumbling across buried treasure. No, true titans only transcend into immortalized greatness through disciplined intentionality. This means installing the identity of being an inevitable winner into their subconscious minds through habitual actions, language patterns, belief systems, and rituals that consistently reinforce their chosen path of actualized excellence. These are the hard truths few people ever discuss about genuine world-class winners. Do you think esteemed high achievers spend countless hours visualizing failure scenarios, obsessing over limitations and obstacles, embracing doubts and uncertainties at the deepest primal subconscious levels? Do they affirm scarcity mindsets, get hung up on personal shortcomings, allow their habits of thought to stray towards self-sabotaging directions that reinforce negativity and the impossibility of rising to the occasion? Absolutely not. Because the first step winners take towards making their champion status inevitable is hardwiring into their neuropsychological identity unwavering expectations, unshakable self-belief, and an overall consistent inner operating system of the victorious identity aimed to eventually actualize in the outer world. In essence, from day one, they choose to act like a winner before they ever actually become one in reality. Now, I realize that might seem like an odd delineation to make, the idea of starting to act in a certain way before you've actually earned that identity or realized your goals. But it is the most essential elemental step towards reprogramming yourself for inevitable triumph. The masters of human optimization and elite performance in any field know that the subconscious mind, even more than the conscious mind, is ultimately the determining seat of both your limitations and your ultimate actualization. And so they understand that the patterns of thought, self-conceptualizations, and programming they allow into their subconscious minds is the foundational source code underpinning their future successes or failures. So they relentlessly audit and shepherd the information and identity narratives, seeding into their subconscious through habitual patterns, self-talk, and rituals they build into their psyche early on. And they make sure to model the psychology and mindset vibrations of an elite champion from the outset. My friends, this is called front-loading the winning identity, and it provides an enormously unfair advantage over those struggling souls who instead allow limiting doubt cycles, mediocrity mindsets, and self-sabotaging subconscious narratives to embed themselves from early on. If you consciously install the triumphant psychology of a winner into your primary habitual patterns of thought using affirmations, visualization, consistent action despite inevitable setbacks, and focusing on solutions rather than fixating on deficiencies and problems, you are essentially setting the coordinates for your future self to inevitably manifest the outer reality of that embedded winner's code. It's almost as if the highest achievers intuitively understand that there is an innate resonance between the predominant vibration patterns they allow into their neurology and psyche and the reflective experiential outcomes that will crystallize as the inevitable end result. By acting like a winner from the outset, they establish powerful self-perpetuating upward momentum towards their dreams, unlike the mediocre masses who passively absorb limiting identities by default. The seed is then embedded for that ultimate self-identity to one day flourish into its fullest manifestation. On the other hand, imagine installing a software program for earning wealth, but then corrupting the integrity of the coding language through an inconsistent mix of self-sabotaging errors, viruses of self-limiting beliefs, and bugs from a haphazard lack of quality control. That program will ultimately only generate errors, glitches, bugs, and dysfunctional results in its external reflection, even if the original source code had the capacity for unlimited riches. The buggy inputs of an amateur coder mindset guarantees the software will underperform and never hit its full potential. This is the exact same principle elite winners instinctively master. They understand that in order to generate the desired external outcomes, they must first develop an exacting discipline around the internal programming they feed their subconscious through habits, identity patterns, affirmations, and daily actions. It's like building the psychological muscle memory through endless reps and reinforcement cycles of thinking like a titan before they ever earn the accolades and outward trappings of their champion self-concept made tangible. This is a core principle of human actualization that is glaringly obvious once broken down, yet it's astonishing how few people ever intentionally embrace this fundamentally empowering path of becoming before their actions catch up to their self-image. That's because living like a winner before you've won requires an extraordinary internal tolerance for discomfort and a visceral willingness to endure short-term suffering in order to generate a long-term achievement payoff down the road. You see, to be willing to assume the self-concept of a champion before you've manifested any of the results proving that identity is warranted means you need to get comfortable living through bouts of internal contradiction and sustained cognitive dissonance for a while. What I mean is that you need to become acclimated to walking around and asserting the unwavering self-beliefs of a prosperous mogul, highly driven peak performer, or a leader in your field, while outwardly you currently look and seem like anything but, at least at first. This requires pushing beyond the temporary discomfort of your outside circumstances, stubbornly contradicting your assumed identity, having the mental fortitude to plow ahead anyway, embody your winner's psychology. After all, abundant mindsets don't generate riches overnight. Mastering any elite skill occurs over years of unrelenting persistence. So you have to get used to doing things differently than everyone else around you, to start talking differently, moving with a presence that signals supreme confidence, behaving and making decisions from that elevated headspace rather than capitulating to reactive short-term impulses. In short, you've got to walk it like you've already won it before external reality catches up to reflect your internal psychological programming. The masses will look at you with bewilderment and even scoff at your audacity to carry yourself with such victor's swagger. They'll scrutinize your humility and wonder, who does this person think they are, acting like a big shot when they haven't achieved anything major yet. And that's a perfectly normal reaction to expect from the hordes of initiated human beings who've been conditioned to let external circumstances dictate their internal psychology, rather than installing the internal psychological drivers from the start that ultimately shape external realities. My friends, at this point, most people cave under that social pressure and cognitive dissonance. They retreat from acting like a champion before earning the accolades, reverting back to their amateur identities, because it starts feeling uncomfortable or unsustainable. But not you, and certainly not the elite winners consistently rising above everyone else. Because you've made a pact with yourself to install and reinforce the triumphant psychology of a victor on repeat, every single day, through any and all available impressions. Maybe you stand in your power poses, broadcasting confidence while looking in a mirror and repeating self-affirmations so the feelings of certainty start saturating your neurology and biomemory. Perhaps you walk around intensely visualizing your future success as a fully realized fait accompli to wire that vision into your subconscious self-concept. You might map out detailed goal plans and reverse engineer your path step by step until the entire process feels completely natural and inevitable to your psyche, far from some unattainable fantasy. Or listen to motivational speakers, musicians, and empowering voices that amplify your mindset into the highest registers of a champion's consciousness. Regardless of the specific modalities and techniques you draw upon, the key is to relentlessly bombard your subconsciousness through every available impression with affirmations, visualizations, habits, and immersion experiences that reinforce your chosen identity as a world-conquering phenom in your specific arena before you ever manifest the results that validate that self-concept. I cannot overstate how critical this front-loaded self-identity installation is to ultimately becoming an unstoppable winner and achieving immortal success that elevates you into the highest echelons of any field. Because you see, what you program into the fertile ground of your subconscious mind today through habitual patterns will inevitably sprout into the predictable manifestations of your external reality further down the line. I'm absolutely certain that if you dig deep enough into the backstories of all your cultural icons, entrepreneurial idols, and history's most impactful figures, people who rose from humble beginnings and ordinary circumstances to reshape entire industries and spheres of influence, you will discover a discipline around programming themselves to think like a champion long before achieving that external validation. At the deepest level, every human being is essentially an output product, a byproduct of their predominant psychology. Their beliefs about themselves, their habits of thought, the internalized identity they reinforce continuously, either unconsciously or deliberately. And those who crave achieving significance and leaving an immortal legacy on the world don't simply stumble ass backwards into that level of accomplishment. There is a supreme intentionality behind their every decision, ritual, and pattern that elevates them into those stratospheric levels of actualization. My friends, winners know in their bones that in order to achieve the extraordinary, they must become extraordinary versions of themselves from the inside out through the sheer repetition of habits that program them for world-class results. Every single morning before your feet hit the floor, a grand champion of life is hardwiring their psychology through morning mantras that install their mental software for victory from the moment they start each new day. Each night before drifting off, they're likely visualizing themselves achieving their biggest wins, reinforcing the expectation of their forthcoming glories by immersing their subconscious minds in the already realized outcomes while the brain enters its impressionable brainwave states. You see, these titans harness every spare moment, every marginal opportunity to imprint themselves with the champion's mindset, because they understand the formidable power of compounding incremental inner shifts over time until it reaches a tipping point of pure psychological potency. Once the core self-concept as an inevitable winner takes root within your neural pathways, psychosomatic muscle memory, and operating system of conditioned belief structures, you attain a degree of self-perpetuating inner power that cannot be deterred by any short-term adversity or impermanent defeats. People often ask me how I cultivated the audacity and unflinching will to manifest all of my goals and dreams, despite encountering immense obstacles and setbacks along the way. And the honest answer is that I acted like an inevitable victor long before the victories ever manifested. I hardwired the identity of a champion into my neurology through sheer act of will. Even when my circumstances seemed to directly contradict that self-concept, I obstinately persisted in reinforcing the habitual motions, actions, thoughts, and speech patterns of a supreme winner. Of course, it felt difficult at the start. There were countless moments of excruciating internal contradiction where my surroundings and material conditions screamed, "You're deluding yourself. You'll never achieve your grandest ambitions or become anything more than ordinary." But each time those insidious doubts and fear-induced limiting mindsets tried to creep back into my psyche and corrupt my triumphant self-identity programming, I had already developed enough psychological muscle memory and hardwiring fortitude to instantly override those viruses with a barrage of reaffirming acts. I'd blast motivational speakers that vibrationally uplifted me back into my victor psychology. I'd passionately recite memorized affirmations that compounded feelings of unshakable certainty and self-belief into my biomemory. Whenever my environment failed to reflect my inner aspirations, I'd enter intense visualization trances, immersing my subconscious imagination in the visceral emotions of what eventual victory would feel like, until that became my dominant vibrational frequency once more. This level of psychological mastery and internal vibration control is exactly how all elite world-class winners ultimately manifest their wildest ambitions, while the masses remain adrift in mediocrity and perpetually unfulfilled potential. Because as I consciously anointed myself as the future champion in my field through cultivating habits of thought, speech, rituals, and immersive visualization that reinforced my identity as a supreme victor, everything around me slowly began morphing to accommodate the energetic resonance I had embedded into my neurology. Synchronicities and coincidences that seemingly came out of nowhere started aligning with stunning accuracy to push me further towards that exalted self-identity I'd already programmed as an inevitability. Windows of opportunity that appeared permanently closed would magically blow wide open, as if the universe itself was yielding energetic passages to accommodate the ferociously triumphant willpower I carried. When you decide to act like a winner before you ever earn that actualized identity, you initiate the neural architecture in your brain that correlates to a champion. And the remarkable laws of energy resonance dictate that you've primed yourself to subconsciously start magnetizing the vibrational harmonics that will help usher your ultimate actualization into reality. You become like the ultimate psychological bodybuilder, slowly but steadily amassing the neural fibers of a champion's mindset until they reach critical muscle density. And suddenly your entire exterior reality has no choice but to mirror and reflect outwardly the unstoppable inner condition you've rendered inevitable on the inside. But here's the crucial key that most people miss on their journey of conscious self-actualization. It's not enough to simply engage in some empty self-talk here or there, to toss around a few affirmations when feeling inspired or visualize on occasion before falling asleep at night. Absolute 100% follow-through, precision, and consistency is required when building your psychology of triumph. Every single word must match your identity as a supreme victor. Every action and ritual maintained with uncompromising discipline. Each fleeting thought reframed and aligned with your chosen triumphant mindset. Because self-sabotaging, doubt, and limiting mindsets have a pernicious way of trying to creep back into the conscious and subconscious levels if we let our mental guards down and allow breaches in our commitment to installing the winner's psychology into our core neural pathways. That's why the most elite performers, highest paid athletes, supremely successful entrepreneurs, and power influencers often exhibit what seems to the masses like extreme obsession, self-absorption, or even delusional levels of unmitigated self-confidence. But really, these individuals have simply mastered the exacting discipline of diligently reinforcing their identity as inevitable champions through rigorous psychological habits and maintenance rituals until their assuredness and unshakable self-belief radiates as an obvious extension of themselves. While others around them constantly doubt, judge, or sneer at their lofty ambitions and preemptively anoint them as failures, the devoted masters of inner reprogramming couldn't care less. They are far too preoccupied with continually reminding themselves of who they've become and who they have inextricably decided they will become. When you've deeply installed the core subconscious code that you are the champion before outward results validate that identity, then criticism and discouragement merely bounce off you like gnats. You take those uninformed exterior opinions with the same nonchalance as swatting away flies because you know your unassailable truth deep within. This act of fully inhabiting the mindset of the ideal self you wish to ultimately become, and all the habits, rituals, and identity reinforcement patterns that entails, must become an entire lifestyle practice and daily renewal if you truly intend on achieving that exalted actualization. Now I realize all of this might sound easier said than done, my friends. And you're absolutely right, the path I'm prescribing to becoming a supreme world-class winner in any field is far from easy. In fact, it's categorically one of the most arduous and demanding spiritual, mental, and physical disciplines you can ever undertake. But for those who recognize that their finite existence on this earth is meant to be lived as a work of art, a masterpiece of legacy and significance, rather than an endless spiral of empty days sleepwalking towards the grave, then there is no alternative but to install the daily habits that reinforce your inevitable champion status. Do you realize how many souls waste through life and succumb to quiet desperation simply because they never chose to consciously aspire to anything greater than the mundane limits of their social conditioning? And even those who discover lofty ambitions and searing life purposes that light their souls ablaze often fail to actualize their highest potentials for one fatal reason: never committing to installing the identity reinforcement habits and psychological hardwiring essential for inevitably becoming that idealized vision. So their aspirations wind up as listless daydreams bleeding away into ether rather than life-propelling missions, made undeniably manifest through their subconscious spiritual resilience and mental muscle memory as a pre-wired victor. But not you, my friends, and certainly not those of us who have honed the exacting precision required to assume the unassailable identity of an unstoppable champion long before we experience any external circumstances validating it. Because we understand at our core that the omnipotent human winner on their highest level is more than just someone who happens to luck into actualized results or chases after fleeting accomplishments through perpetual pursuit. No, elite winner is someone who assumes the core psychology, embedded belief structures, and neural programming of inevitability until their outer world reality harmonizes flawlessly to reflect the supreme self-identity they have persisted in reinforcing. So take a moment to ponder, what habits could you implement starting today that would reinforce the identity and lifestyle of your idealized self? How could you start walking with the assured presence of a future champion? What affirmations and visualization practices might you utilize to wire your neurology for inevitable triumph? More importantly, how committed can you become to living in supreme integrity with the mental software programming of that loftiest self-concept you aim to ultimately embody? Are you willing to do the psychological work every single day without reservation? Because those able to assume that psychological high ground, those few spiritually resilient seekers of transcendent excellence who intentionally adopt the mindset of a winner before they achieve victory, are the ones who inevitably manifest as grand champions across every field of human endeavor. They become inevitable victors because their devout commitment to that consistent identity level programming essentially bends the matrix of their experiential reality and life outcomes into direct alignment with that predominant psychology they obediently reinforced over thousands of incremental self-impressions. Does it require immense mental, physical, and spiritual fortitude to act like a winner before achieving any results worthy of that identity? Absolutely. It's one of the most profoundly demanding spiritual practices in existence, which is precisely why so few ever adhere to it. But for the rare mortals, for those exceptional human beings who intuitively grasp that this finite life was gifted to create something sublime and defy the gravity of unremarkable mediocrity, this path of the chosen victor is the only one worthy of embarkation. So study the habits, rituals, and obsessive identity level psychology of your idols, exemplars and paragon level human beings who have realized their fullest potentials as enduring champions of tangible excellence. Commit yourself to an equivalent degree of mental resilience, spiritual devotion, and obedience to installing that same mindset circuitry, no matter how contradictory your short-term circumstances initially feel. Make it your discipline to be the supreme steward of installing your inevitably triumphant psychology well before you achieve results. Because only then, through that sacred commitment to preparing the fertile soil of your consciousness for inevitable victory regardless of passing battles you might endure, can you render yourself the ultimate life mastery of becoming a supreme winner on the physical, mental, spiritual, and legacy levels of human actualization. My friends, this is the core essence of what actualizes the very greatest amongst us. The supreme wisdom of living into the identity of a champion even before manifesting outwardly as one, and then allowing life's currents of energetic resonance to harmonize with that predominant mental software through the laws of metaphysical attraction and alignment. Act like a supreme winner today in the most minute habits and thought patterns. Obsess over maintaining the psychological circuitry and identity markers of a pre-wired champion. Become shameless in reinforcing the mindset code of boundless triumph, no matter how contradictory external illusions may temporarily appear. For it is these committed souls who have embedded the psychological hardware of champions well before the trophies, accolades, and worldly validations caught up to confirm their unbreakable self-concept that inevitably go on to achieve world-conquering actualization. You have all the potential required to become an unstoppable winner in your arena by acting with unflinching certainty like that identity was already planted deep within you waiting to blossom outward into physical manifestation. The only remaining variable is your commitment to the daily habits and identity reinforcement patterns that will inevitably birth you into inhabiting the full external expression of that supreme champion you aim to embody. Those willing to assume that mental high ground and persist with devotion to the psychological customs of a victor before conquering any kingdoms, those precious few inevitably pull the future into harmonious coessence with their predominant self-identity. Because in truth, your thoughts, rituals, and mental imprints are the only predictors of your reality. And those who harness the power to operate like a supreme winner before achieving external results are the ones who inevitably manifest as immortal champions. So reinforce and consistently renew your identity as the supreme victor every minute of every day, my friends, because this is the hidden key to actualizing legendary human triumph and significance beyond your ancestors' wildest dreams. Start hammering those rituals, inner commands, and thoughts that reinstall your psychological programming to match that of the inevitable champion you know resides within. Assume that mental mastery with unwavering vigilance, and your reality will have no choice but to harmonically align with the intensity of your actualized self-identity soon enough. Because the simple yet profound truth is that winners act like winners long before they ever achieve victory. And you are about to become one of those legendary souls who earns their way to immortality by first installing the irresistible mindset code of a supreme victor deep within. So walk like a champion today, talk like a supreme master, carry yourself as an incoming world beater poised to leave an immortal legacy few others dare dream. And then remain spiritually faithful and psychologically devoted until the mirror of your experience catches up and reflects that radiant identity back in full bloom. For those possessing that rare mental tenacity, that sacred commitment to behaving like a supreme winner no matter what the short term holds, yours shall be the sweetest fruits of an actualized human existence. Yours will be the ultimate victory and significance that distinguishes you as an immortalized legend amongst the masses of mediocrity. So consider yourself initiated today into the spiritual brotherhood of champions, my friends. Now play your sacred part of walking the earth as a supreme victor incarnate, audaciously acting like the winner you were destined to immortally become well before the story of your life culminates in its inevitable triumph beyond any doubter's wildest dreams.